No, what I'm talking about is a crisis that's going to be coming this fall, especially into 2022, which is going to affect middle management as well and some more senior positions. So there have been a lot of studies and surveys into those people who have been working from home, working remotely. Now remember, working remotely doesn't necessarily just mean working at home. A lot of people have gone traveling during this period as well. They're working out of other countries, more like digital nomadic living and working. This also accounts for a proportion of the population, millennials, Generation Z, etc. So of all the people surveyed, 70% said they did not want to return to the office and that they would prefer to remain working remotely. And we have to ask the question, why is this? Well, of that 100% group, 60% of them said that working from home has improved their lives dramatically. Their standard of living has gone up, more time with family, less time doing a mundane commute. They're not spending money on all the things they used to, going out and buying lunches and dry cleaning work clothing and all these other things. Now, of course, I'm talking about information workers here. This doesn't apply to people who have to physically be in a factory or working in construction and things like that. So we're predominantly talking about these people who are information workers. And remember what I've been saying over the last year and a few months, a lot of the mass migration that we've seen in the housing market, which of course you've been watching on the channel and I've been tracking for you, has come from this group. So these are white collar workers. So if you think about this logically, if you've just spent the last year trying to find a home, you've been competing with other people, you've been in bidding wars, you've been looking, outside the city, things like that. Why would you want to move back to the city within the same year and pay fees for selling your home again, all this? You don't. So a lot of people now are choosing, and especially with the crisis we have with so many job vacancies, a lot of people can be picky and choosy and are deciding to work remotely. So of course this is causing a clash because a lot of employers want their staff back in the offices now, and the staff don't want to go and they don't have to go. So right now we've got this huge conflict because employees know that they can be choosy, a lot more picky on the job. And it's also proven that people who are loyal to their employers actually earn as much as 50% less than those people that change jobs every 2 or 3 years. Now, there's another downside with changing jobs, which I've noticed a lot as well. Hi, if you're enjoying this video so far, can you do me a quick favor? Just click the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. And please leave me a comment. What do you think about this whole crisis that's going on? And that is that if you are loyal to your company and you stay with your company, when it comes to layoffs, a lot of the time, the people who are quite loyal and obviously they're earning less because they've stayed there and haven't negotiated their salary up, they're often not the ones to get cut. But the people who jump ship regularly and change jobs every year or two, there's an expression in England, I don't know if it carries into the rest of the world, but the expression is last one in, first one out. And this is very, very common. A lot of employers and recruitment and HR will tell you this. One of the things that's the easiest to do is to let go of people who are the newest into a company. So of course there are downsides and there are benefits of staying in the same company or leaving that company. But one of the statistics that really surprised me the most was from Monster.com, which is an online recruitment company. And they say, and I don't know if this statistic is true because it's so outrageous, that 95% of Americans are right now considering leaving their jobs. And this is on top of the 10 million, actually it's more than 10 million now, 10 million workers who have left their jobs since April of 2021. So this is another reason why we're not seeing this change in the unemployment numbers. If you look at what the Federal Reserve and the government forecast for unemployment dropping by this stage, it actually hasn't happened. It's still hovering around that 6% mark. So why is that? Well, there's a number of fundamentals. One of them is, again, coming back to a previous video I talked about, so I won't go into it all again now, but that is the unemployment benefits. If you give people unemployment benefits, I'm not saying people will become lazy and just won't work, But that's only true for a small percentage of the population. Okay, this is just psychology. Human beings, we're designed to collect resources, right? That's what we do. We are geared towards having some fulfillment, collecting resources. If you then give human beings the resources and they're locked down, what will they do? They've now achieved one part of it, but the other part is the fulfillment. So what do? We start looking for other things to occupy our time. Now, some of these things have now become skills for a lot of people, and people can now use these skills to generate additional income. So I believe this is another reason why a lot of people are not returning to work. They would rather have some form of unemployment on the side on top of their, what do you want to call it, side hustle, their additional income. Maybe they're doing self-employment now. So you've got to take into account all of these things that are going on. So it's quite ironic that in 2020, people were panicking. If you remember the absolute panic, that everyone thought they were going to lose their jobs because of the pandemic and the lockdowns and things like that, which didn't actually happen. Yes, it happened for a lot of people, but a lot of people were then able to collect unemployment or furlough or work from home remotely. And here's where the irony comes in. Now that didn't happen, people are voluntarily actually leaving their jobs, right? And I don't agree with some of the media reports saying people are just quitting their jobs to sit at home, collect unemployment and do nothing. Yes, some states people are doing that, but it's not across the board. In fact, there's a number of states now where they've completely stopped the unemployment benefits and they're using other incentives to get people back to work. In fact, there are 6 states at the moment which are giving employment bonuses if you go back to work. So Montana and Oklahoma are good examples of this. They're paying $1,200 for anyone who goes back to work and does a minimum of 4 weeks work. You see, this is how bad the work situation is right now in terms of a number of sectors where they just can't get people into the workplace. And again, there's a lot of spin and rumors as to why this is, but I'm pretty confident it's because of the unemployment benefits that were initially given. And when people get used to unemployment benefits, not working, they get comfortable with whatever they're doing and they're finding new ways to find fulfillment in their life. And if you have that for an extended period of time, why do you want to go back to a job that maybe you didn't like? Because just look at what employers have been doing. And this doesn't apply to all employers. I just want to be very clear on that. I'm an employer myself. But what a number of employers have been focused on is the bottom line. So that's profitability. They've really been putting employees second place. And now the employers are realizing, oh, okay, we should have treated our employees better, but it's too late because we're now in this crisis and a lot of people just don't want to go back to those jobs that they didn't enjoy working in the first place. So this is another reason for the situation. New Hampshire, Arizona, Connecticut, Colorado, they all have some form of these bonuses at the moment to get people back to work. Now, this crisis has actually been created by the government in the first place, the central government. So now the state governments need to resolve this crisis. So overall, I think we're going to go into this hybrid mode, this hybrid work mode, definitely for the next 12 months, if not the next 18 months, until things start to stabilize. But there's one thing that, I've watched a couple of these videos, people talking about the Great Resignation and all of this. One thing that they are all missing is what actually occurs later on. And that is where the crisis comes in. This is called unemployment scarring. You'll have heard me talk about this before. And this results when, if you think about 60% of all employees are employed by SMEs, small to medium-sized enterprises. Well, who suffered the worst over the last year and 3-4 months? It's the SMEs. It's not the big companies. The big companies could leverage huge amounts of finance at almost 0% interest, but the SMEs weren't able to leverage such large amounts of finance and to keep themselves going. So you saw this mass layoff in employees, and it wasn't necessarily layoffs, it was the fact that the businesses closed down. Look at London, look at Paris, look at any major capital city, look at New York, look at Los Angeles, and you'll see the number of businesses that have collapsed, the smaller businesses. Now, these businesses all employed people. And you've got to ask the question, why isn't the reality actually matching the statistics right now? So if you look at the labor market statistics, government statistics, you'll see that it sits around 6%, which is quite a far cry from what it should be. Now, of course, the spin at the moment is that the unemployment will come back down, we're going to reach 3% and all this sort of thing. I think this is purely fiction, because in order to get back down to that, you need to recreate these SMEs. And I just don't think they're going to come back as quickly as people think. I also believe there's going to be a crisis in the next year or so. Maybe it could go to 2 years, but eventually this crisis is going to come about. And this is going to cause more businesses to collapse as well.